this morning, turn with me, please, to Luke's Gospel. I'd like to read a few verses from Luke's Gospel and a few from Mark's Gospel. Luke's Gospel, chapter 12. I'm speaking this morning on the subject, when success is failure, and probably when failure is success. Luke's Gospel, chapter 12, verses 13 through 21. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me. And he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? And he, that is Jesus, said unto him, Take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. And he spoke a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no place to bestow my crops. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my crops and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasures for himself, and is not rich toward God. Over in Mark's Gospel, chapter 8, we read these words, beginning with verse 34. Whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever would save his life shall lose it. But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Somehow we've come to think of success in the light of what the world thinks of about success. You see, we sometimes measure the success of a person on the scales of how the world thinks and what the world considers success. But Jesus said, What should it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? Or what would a man give in exchange for his soul? And so as we think about success this morning, we need to think about it in the realms of what God considers success, and not what man considers success. How do you measure success anyhow? Well, the world measures success in many different ways. The world measures success first of all, by wealth. Somehow the world seems to think if a person has been able to accumulate a lot of wealth, material possessions, houses and lands, and stocks and bonds, and businesses, and material wealth, that certainly this person must be successful. Some people measure success by the level of a person's education. If a person has somehow accumulated a certain amount of degrees and has so much education and knowledge that this person must be successful. Some people measure success for fame by the fact that someone is a famous person, that they certainly must be successful since that they have reached this plateau of success in being famous. Others measure success by position. Someone may be elected to some position in our government or some position of power and prestige, and because of this, they certainly are a successful person. And so often it is people sell out their souls, to be able to somehow accumulate some of the success that we've talked about here already. Power, position, fame, education, and wealth. But you know, history records millions of people who have been very successful in the eyes of people, but have been failures in their lives. Failures in their lives. Failures in things that really count as far as eternity is concerned. Think of Marcus in the Philippines. Marcus, who was famous, he was for 20 years the premier or the governor or the president or the prime minister, whatever his title was, of the Philippines. For 20 years he was prominent. For 20 years he accumulated wealth and fame. For 20 years he looked like a successful man. But now he's a fugitive from his own country. Now even no nation seems to want him to be a citizen of that country. Now he has been deported from his own land and a failure in the eyes of the world. Think of Albert Einstein, probably the greatest mind that maybe the world has ever produced. Einstein himself was one of the greatest scientists. It was through his work that we were able to split the atom. And many of the things that we enjoy today are directly related to the scientific work of Albert Einstein. But here's a man that was successful in the eyes of the world, educationally wise and scientifically wise. He was a success, but a failure as far as I'm concerned, because he never did come to the place that he recognized that Jesus Christ was Lord and God was on the throne. Think of Marilyn Monroe in her prime. How much fame that she had, and fortune, and remember what happened to her, and all of that success. She dies one night with an overdose of sleeping pills because she did not know how to handle life and became a failure. Think of Elvis Presley, one of the most famous of all singers, I guess, died in his back room, a dropout from society, a drug addict, because of simple reason that success was measured in the wrong terms for him. I've known pastors that were successful as far as the world was concerned, as far as the denomination was concerned, as far as church people were concerned, but were a complete failure. I remember when I was the vice president of the Southern Baptist Bus Ministry Association of the Southern Baptist Convention. We had men across our convention who were in that organization. I was the vice president. The president of the Southern Baptist Bus Ministry Association the year before was a pastor in Arkansas. The most successful pastor in our Southern Baptist Convention. In fact, he led the state of Arkansas in baptisms that year. In the same year, the pastor here in North Carolina that led the state of North Carolina in baptisms, both of them were failures, because both of them that same year left their wives and wound up with another woman and were kicked out of the churches. The simple reason they were a success in the pastorate was their PhDs, and all the other LLDs and PhDs and DDs and all those things, more degrees than thermometer sometimes. And yet, those same people had failed miserably because they could not control their lust. And they couldn't control their lust for women and lust for power and lust for money. And because of that, it took them down, down, down until their life was a wreck. You can go to Skid Row in Chicago or Atlanta or Philadelphia or New York. And on Skid Row, you won't find people on Skid Row who, so many of them who were raised poor and didn't have anything. You know what you find there? You find their doctors, and you find their lawyers, and you find their businessmen, and you find their highly educated people that were successful, but somehow they were not able to deal with the issues of life, and because of it, they find themselves on Skid Row. You know the most likely person to commit suicide? It's a person that's graduated from Harvard. The most highly educational institution in America. You know the person that's most likely to commit suicide professionally-wise is a psychiatrist living in San Francisco. Successful people, but yet failures. You know the most unlikely person to commit suicide? It's a black man living on welfare in South Carolina with that don't even know where a husband's at. I'm not saying that's the way to be successful. What I'm saying is how we measure success. And I've known people who seemingly were successful, but they themselves were miserable because they had failed in the real things that count in life. Failed as a Christian. Success in life, but failure in death.